Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Ms. Dubois yet again going through pre-algebra goal 3 specifically. We don't have all that much left. We actually just have one collection of topics to go through. A lot of this completionist section of the goal is just using everything we've learned in other sections of the videos and just kind of using them all in one stretch. So we're going to jump right in and then goal 3 will be complete. And we start with automatically some word problems. This section is pretty heavy on the word problems. I know you're thrilled. Contain your excitement. And for those of you who have absolute agony when you see more than just X, Y, and Z in a math problem, breathe. I've got your back for this. So first things first, tax rate or commission. This, I find that what confuses kids more than anything else is they don't actually know what a tax rate or commission is. Like they kind of understand tax, but basically if you buy a thing, so like eventually the day will come where I have enough money to buy a house. Yay, someday. What happens is when I have the person who actually sells the house for me and gives me my little deed and says, huzzah, happy day, everything is done, they also have to take a cut. So when I'm shelling out my money, I'm not just shelling out money for the house itself, but I'm also shelling out extra money that is being given to the person who sold me the house. That's what we're looking for right now. And that's ultimately what we're being asked to find for this particular problem. And I just realized I'm in the wrong layer. All right, so salesperson sells this much money in merchandise and earns this much in commission. Finds the commission rate. So in other words, this little part that came out of this is going to be the commission, and we got to find out what that percentage is. And shockingly, you already know how to do this. All you're doing is you're going to take, and this is tricky for some people, what's going to happen is your commission is going to go over your payment. And again, it's not just commission, it's also the tax as well, because there's two words here. We have both tax and commission. Both of them are going to go in the numerator. So which number is the commission? The 396. So 396 divided by 220. And again, Ms. Dubois, human calculator though she is, cannot do immediately everything. So 396 divided by 2200 equals 0.18. So 0.18, again, that is a decimal. And after the last video on all the conversion, we have to convert the decimal to a percent. I move the decimal 2 places over to the right, and I have an 18% commission. That's all you're doing. Division, move the decimal, answer. Very, very simple. Over here, the sales tax for an item, the tax was $22.20, so that's going to go on the top. Oops, there we go. And then it cost $370, so $370. So we're going to pull out our calculator again. 22.20 divided by 370 equals 0.06. That's the Connecticut tax rate right there. I can tell because if I move it over 2 decimal places, it then becomes 6%. Actually, is the tax rate still 6%? I haven't looked in a while. Anyway, now next topic, finding the percentage of a whole number. This actually I find really cool because now we're using the proportion work we were doing up here in these topics. But what's actually happening is we're going to use that setup that number over number equals number over x, and like x can be like literally in any of the 4 positions. What we're going to do instead is going to make that very, very specific. So let's take a look here. We're going to do is over of equals percent over 100. That's going to be the setup. So the percent over 100, you've done this enough times in goal 3 that I don't even need to justify it and explain it. You have seen it multiple times. The is over of part, that's the one that's a little bit new. And this is basically going to be a matching game. So let's see here. There's 15%. We have of 75. And now we have enough. Even though there's two numbers there's given here, we actually have three numbers to set up our proportion. So we don't have an is. I don't see is anywhere here. Of 75, of tells me that it's going to go here. Oops, it's going to go here, which means I need to write 75, Ms. Dubois, not of. The percent is 15, and then your third number is actually given in your setup right in here. The 100 is always going in here. Now, the result of that is that you actually have everything you need in order to do the math, because we can cross multiply, that trick from before. Cross multiply, that's 100x equals, whatever 75 times 15 is. 75 times 15, enter, is 1125. Divide by 100, divide by 100, and again, I know what that means. I'm just moving the decimal over 2 places to get 11.25%. I'm worried that I went through all of that and I did it a little bit too fast, because the cross multiplying part you've done multiple times, you know how to do it. It's the is over of part that's new. So let's see here. We have 46% here equals, and then it's going to be out of 100, so 46 goes here. The 65 over here is an of, so that 65 goes down in here. Let's assume for the sake of argument that this actually isn't an of. Let's just say 65 is 46% of what number? This is something I have seen multiple times back when I was a middle school teacher. 65 is my is, 40% is my of. So for this, you'll notice, again, the situation has reversed. This one over here is an of, this one over here is an if. It is an is. I think that makes sense. So when we set up our proportion for this hypothetical, the 46, because it's percent over 100, so it's 46% over 100. Since 65 is the is for this type of problem, the 65 is going to go up here. Now here for this problem, because it's an of, it's going to drop underneath. The x goes on top, cross multiply. 100x equals 46 times 65. So 46 times 65, enter, is going to be 2990. Divide by 100, and since I know division by 100 means I take the decimal point and move it over 2 spaces, that means x equals 29.9%. It would help if I had the percent symbol. There we go. So again, nothing new here. This is stuff we've already done, in different permutations. We're just doing it in a new style. Now, finding the percentage of a total amount. Now, you note, let's see here. No, I don't see it here. So total amount is going to be our hint right here. What that means is every number they give us that's not a percent, because it's a total, it is going to go on the bottom of our number. But just in case I'm wrong, let's double check. We have 19.4%. It's always percent over 100. And now the chemist is using 374 milliliters of a solution that's acid and water. And we're finding out the acid. So this 374 represents all of the acid and water. And since it's a total, totals will always go on the bottom of a fraction. And you'll actually see that again in chapter 6 when you're in the Algebra 1 course. That also has some mild work with proportions and percents. And again, your totals are always going to go on the bottom. Here's our unknown. So we're going to do cross multiply. 100x equals, whatever that is. So I can't do 3-digit numbers in my head. 374 times 19.4 equals 7255.6. And you'll notice here it says round to the nearest tenth. So this decimal, when I move it over 2 places, that is going to be 72.556. That's a little ugly for a decimal. It's not the worst we've seen in these videos, but now because it's to the nearest tenth, there's the 10th place, and there is my decision maker, my DM. And since that's a 5 or more, we're going to round up, so x equals 72.6%. Ta-da! Now we do it again. We have the is over of equals percent over 100, and we know that it's going to be 51. And now the weight of the chocolate bar is 94 grams, and only 51% of it is cocoa. So the 94 is the total. Ergo, the total goes on the underneath, and there is going to be our x. Cross multiply. 100x equals 94 times 51. 94 times 51. 4794. 4794. Divide by 100. Divide by 100. X equals 47. Move the decimal over 2 place. 0.94. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. There's my tenth. There's my decision maker. So that means it's going to be 47.9%. It's a horrible looking percent symbol, but oh well. I've done this enough times, and now that we know that total is such a dead giveaway, I'm just going to dump the 281 into underneath of the fraction bar, and then it's 15.9% over 100. Cross multiply. 100x equals whatever that is. So 15.9 times 281. Enter. That's going to be 4467. 4467.9. Do our division, move the decimal over 2 places, and you can already see that decimal looks a little bit ugly, 44.679%. Rounding to the nearest tenth, there's the tenths place, there is my decision maker, the DM of this particular role-playing match, and that's a 7, so it makes me round up. So our final answer is going to be 44.7%. Ta-da! I know the word problems get a little bit dicey after a while. It's just physically scary to see all of the sentences and understanding that you have to pull math out of it. Not a lot of people have that section of their brain developed this early in their lives, but it does come over time. Next, applying the percent equation. This is it again. Is over of equals percent over 100. And now you're going to start seeing things sort of splay out, and you see numbers go in different places. So is over of equals percent, which in this case is 25 over 100, and 72 is, there's the is, and based on the formula, does it go in the top or in the bottom? It goes on the top, 72, and then there's my x. So now this time when I cross multiply, I have 25x equals 7200. Can I do that? I know I can do that in my head, but it's going to take time, and it is like stupid o'clock in the evening. So 7200 divided by 25 equals 288. So x equals 288 for box 1. That's our first one. Now we do the second one. 39 is, so 39 is 75% of what number? And here in this case, the way they've worded it, because this is SAT wording here, of what, they actually tell you where the variable is going to go. There's the of, it goes in the of section. Cross multiply. 75x equals 3900. And what in fact is 3900 divided by 75 when my brain calculator is fried? 52. So x equals 52. Now here's the curious thing. Is it going to be like this every single time? 35 is what percent of? Okay, so we're noticing a little bit of repetition here, which I'm not fond of, just because I like having you work with a variable is everywhere, but here we go. It's again. 33 is 75% of what? This is going to be our variable. So is over of equals percent over 100. Cross multiply. So that is going to be 75x equals 3300. Divide by 75. Let's see here. If 3900 is 52, what will this be? 48 maybe? We'll find out. 3300 divided by 75. 44. That was close. Equals 44. Oh, duh, of course. I could have done that a different way in my head as a human calculator. Boo. All right, if we take this one and break it up, what percent? So now they're telling you when your is over of, your actual percent is going to be the unknown. of 60, so 60 goes underneath, is 27. The 27 goes on top. Cross multiply. So 60x equals 2700. Divide by 60. Divide by 60. X equals what? 40. No, you know what? I don't want to do it in my head. I'm lazy. 2700 divided by 60. Maybe it was still in the early afternoon. 45. Well, I almost had it. So this formula is a permutation of your proportions formula. It's just slightly more rigid, a little more specific. But once you know how to box off your numbers, everything goes better after that. And now we get to do it all over again. So we're still using is over of equals percent over 100. But now you'll notice we're having decimals being listed out over here. So the expectation is going to be a little bit different when we get our numbers. But same thing as before, I'm just going to put this in a box and start breaking it off. 38% of what, so there's our variable, is 28.5, which means it's supposed to look like this. There we go. So is which number? 28.52. What number? And then it's 36.8 out of 100. Now that math is going to get ugly. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this in my head. 36.8 equals 2852. So 2852 divided by 36.8. Okay, you can tell it's late in the evening because my ability to be formatted is absolutely dying miserably. That's supposed to be have an X, and we're doing division, Ms. Dubois. Follow through with your math and do not set a bad example to your students. And what was the final number? 77.5. So X equals 77.5 for our first one, which is going to go in here. Next, block this off. What percent of an is? So 27 over 18.75. Ooh, improper fraction. I know it's going to be, the percent is going to be 100 something. It's going to be x over 100 cross multiply 18.75. I didn't even cross multiply over here. Ms. Dubois, what is wrong with you? Equals 2700. And now we're going to divide x equals what? So we're going to do 2700 divided by 18.75, and we get 144%. That's 12 squared. I kind of low-key love that just for that little factoid. Cool. Next up, box it off again. What is percent of? So what is of 38.5, and then it's 24 over 100. So cross multiply, we have 100x equals whatever that unholy mess is. So, whoops, what is this? No, stop, computer. Oh my God. All right, my computer stopped having an aneurysm. What was I in the middle of doing? 24, nope, computer, good Lord. 24 times 38.5. And we have 924 divide by 100. Divide by 100 means we move it over 2 places. X equals 9.24. Not so bad. Box off the next one. 43 is what percent of 9.2? So 43.7 is of 9.2. This is another one that's going to be over 100, I can tell. Cross multiply. So we have 9.2x equals 4370. I don't need a calculator for that because I'm multiplying by 100, so I move the decimal over 2 places, and that gives me the 0. The division by 9.2, though, that's a little outside my very tired brain. So calculator, good computer. So now we have 4370 divided by 9.2, enter. And so for our final, oops, I did not read that fast enough, 475, x equals 475%. Now, at first blush, that number looks really big, 400%. But if I actually look at the numbers, 9 times 4 is 36. And that's a little, so this is a little bit bigger than 36. So this is a little bit over 400%. That actually checks out. And that's a handy little mental math trick when you're trying to do this kind of work in your head. Assuming you do. I know. All right, total amount given a partial amount. Let's see here. A book has been sold for that many copies in its first month. Suppose this represents 9.6. Aha. Phrasing. Computer, stop being a schnitzel. There we go. Phrasing is going to be important here. 9.6 of the copies sold. How many copies have been sold to date? Okay, so a lot of people, especially beginners, they're going to look at that giant number and say, well, that goes in the bottom of the fraction, doesn't it? Well, let's think about this for a second. 9.6 over 100. This big old number, I want to say a different word, but I'll be good, represents only the 9.6%. In other words, they have done with the word represents, they have linked the 37.4 with the 9.6%. And that means these two are besties. Since they're besties, they want to be next door to each other. So that 37,400 actually goes in the top of your equation, which means your number is going to be ginormous. And you even get the hint of that because it tells you round to the nearest whole number. They're already saying like, yeah, we ain't even bothering for tenths and hundredths. You just give us a whole number and we'll be happy campers. Now, multiply this out. That's going to get me 9.6x equals 37400. And then since I'm multiplying by 100, I move it over another pair of zeros. That is a giant number that I'm now going to divide by 9.6. Even if I was wide awake, that is not a big, that I can't read that in my head. So 3, 4, 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros divided by 9.6. Sweet Jiminy Cricket. Okay, so 36, 14, 58. 36, 14, 58. And then what was the decimal? Because I'm rounding to a whole number. Oh, the decimal is 3. So it rounds down, which means it stays the same. So 37,000 is only going to be about 9% of 360,000 with change. That sounds kosher. That sounds enormous, but that sounds kosher. Same thing is going to happen over here. So we set up our two equations out of 100. We have the 29.9%. That part makes sense. This one I actually have to read, which is unfortunate because I love word problems where I can skip the reading part. Let's see here. 29.9% were female. So let's assume that there were 56,600 female. Okay, so again, they're linking. Female is 29%. Which means this number is besties with the percent. The 56,600 is going to go here, and then the x goes underneath, which means we are yet again getting a ginormous number as an answer. So cross multiply, 29.9x equals 56,600, and then we tack on 2 more zeros because we multiplied by 100. So 5,660,000. Jiminy Cricket. That's multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So divide by 29.9. Divide by 29.9. Oof. Wish me luck. Please, calculator, be nice for me. 56 and then 634 divided by 29.2. Nope. 0.9. You see that? I miscopied somehow. Enter. Okay. 189, 297, 6. 189, 297, 6. And that's supposed to be a 9 because I made a mistake and almost gave myself misery. round to the nearest whole number. That makes me round up. So our final number is 189,297. 189,297. So now we know when we get to this topic in particular, the numbers are going to be slightly insane. But because we know that coming in, it's not going to scare us. It's like, oh, I got a big number miss. Actually, no, that's par for the course for this topic. I'm good. Next, as we continue scrolling down, finding the final amount of the original amount and a percentage increase or decrease. This part here, percentage increase and decrease, you're going to see this again in Algebra 1. So take extra special careful of your notes here. Let's see here. We have this new step because it's less than. If you remember all the way back from goal 1 of pre-algebra, that is a hint for subtraction. And the current model is thus. So how much will the price decrease in dollars? So here's the thing, because they're giving you the less than, and that's a word for subtraction, this is not the number we are going to be using for our computation. When you see this in a percent problem, that is a tip-off that you're actually going to have an extra step. And here's our extra step. It is going to be 100, and then it will either be plus or minus depending on what they tell you to do. In this particular case, it's going to be minus because they gave us the word for subtraction. 100 minus the percent, which is 13.7. Let's see if I can do that in my head. 99, so that's going to be 86.3. This now is the number we're going to use in the computation because that's the percent they're actually asking for. So x over the total, which is 35,000, equals 86.3 over 100. Let's see here, cross multiply, so 100x equals that unholy nightmare of a mess. Calculator, come back, save me. What do we have? 35,000 times 86.5 equals 302, 7,500. 302, 7,500. Divide by 100, which means we move the decimal over 1, 2. So x equals 3275. $30,275. Now, if you'll notice, the math I'm starting to go through, it's going a little bit faster because you've done this kind of work multiple times by now. Like, there's nothing really new here except for this part that they're throwing at you. Now, looking over here, it's valued at this. Decreases, so that's another word for subtraction of the 18%. So that 100 plus or minus, in this case, because it's subtraction, it's minus 18%. That is, of course, going to be 82, I believe. Yep. And this now is the number we're going to be using in our computations. This is going to be x over 321,000 equals 82 over 100. So new verse, same as the first, cross multiply. So it's 100x equals whatever that is. So 82 times 321, enter. That is, what is that? 263, 22,000. 263, 22,000. Whew, that took me a minute to memorize it. Divide by 100, which over here means I move the decimal point over 1, 2 positions. So x equals 263,220. So 263,220. So keep in mind, that's two topics now that give you some pretty ugly answers when you're looking at this. But so long as you know that coming in, it won't freak you out. Couple more topics still. Sale price given the original percent and the percent discount. Again, this pops up again in Algebra 2. There is a difference here between of versus off. It's literally the difference of one letter. It's so shallow, and that makes it so hard for kids to see. But if it's of, there's no extra step, you're repeating as normal. If it's off, this is the one where you're going to do the 100 plus or minus whatever they tell you. So this topic is a lead in from this topic. So you really kind of want to do this one first and then this one second so that you're comfortable with what you're doing first before you have to make the decision on whether or not to do it. So we're looking at the first one. We have regularly priced. We have 85% off. Off tells us we're going to do the extra bit. So it's going to be 100 minus 85, which is going to be 15%. So let's see here. It's regularly priced, so that's going to be on the bottom. So 15 equals 15 over 100. Did I set that up right? It's regularly priced. Yes. So there's another thing that I'm doing to check my work. In Algebra 1, this topic is worded a little bit differently, and so I'm double checking myself. Regularly priced means it goes on the bottom of your fraction if you're having trouble with that. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Yes, it is. Because that's the original. Yep, because that's the original price. Ms. Dubois is awake. Sure, she is. Absolutely. Cross multiply. 100x equals 15 times 15, which is, of course, 225. And then we're going to divide by 100, divide by 100, which means we move the decimal over 2 places. X equals 2.25. And does that make sense? It's $15. We want only 15%, which is a pretty small amount of it. 225, yeah, that sounds about right. Now over here we have 65% of. Of tells us that there's no extra step here, so we can just jump right into dumping this 65 into the proportion that we're setting up. And the original price is always going to go on the bottom. So that's going to be the 53 over here, and there's our unknown. Cross multiply. 100x equals, what is 53 times 65? I don't know. It's dumb o'clock at night. Times 65, 3445. So 3445. Divide by 100, divide by 100, which again, same as before, you move the decimal over 2 places. X equals $34.45. So a little over half as much as the original price, and the original price is 53. So yeah, that sounds about right. Finding the total cost, including tax or markup. Markup, if you haven't heard of that in the real world, that's just when you're adding more money. So it's similar to a sales tax, only it's not actually tax represented. It could be a markup just because of supply and demand or whatever. Like, that's economics, and that's not my field. What do we have? We have before tax. So again, the before always goes on your bottom. So 528.98. And then we have the 6.75, which is our percent over 100, and there is our x. Cross multiply. 100x equals whatever that unholy mess is. So it is going to be 6.75 times 528.98. Enter. So 3570, 61.5. 3570, 61.5. There's your mess. Divide by 100, divide by 100. So x equals 35.70615. Oh, there has to be rounding. That decimal is ugly. What does it say? Yep. Round to the nearest cent. There's your nearest cent. So there's your decision maker. So it'll be $35.71 because 6 is 5 or greater. Now again, wholesale price is $111,111, and then it is a markup. So 33%. Oh, those clever little schnitzels. The software just tried to play me and I almost missed it. Okay, let me go back up and talk about markups again. I was stupidly talking about economy, but you know what? It's exactly like the word discount. It tells you that there's another step involved. You know how I was talking about 100 plus or minus? It pops up again over here, and I almost missed it. You silly little software. You almost tricked the math teacher, and you were definitely planning on tricking the students. How dare you? Silly computer, silly software. So what they're going to do here, because it's a markup, it's going to be that extra step. You have the 100 plus or minus whatever the percent is. Because it's a mark up meaning you're increasing, it's going to be 100 plus, and in this case the percent is 33. So 100 plus 33 is 133, and that's the number that goes in the percent box over the 100. Oh, I am shocked that they almost snuck that under my radar. I must be tired. Cross multiply. So that is going to be 100x equals, see if that was 11, I could do that in my head, but I can't. So what is 111 times 133? 14,763. 14,763 divide by 100, divide by 100, x equals, move it over to place, 147, which I apparently have lost the ability to write coherently. X equals 147.63. God, my brain literally just stopped working for a second there. I must be tired. Good thing we're near done. All right, so $147.63, and they spared us. There's no ugly rounding. Hooray! Although, I mean, given the fake out they gave us, that's the least they could do. All right. Ooh, we hit the end of this thingy. We're almost done. Finding the percent increase and decrease. So this is similar to these last two topics where you have that 100 plus or minus, but now the setup is very slightly different. This is another one that is an Algebra 1 topic. You tend to see it, I think, in Goal 1-ish, maybe? Someone's going to correct me in the comments. So we have a today and a yesterday. That's the big thing. And then these two numbers, shockingly, don't actually get used in your setup. So what's going to happen, here is your generic setup. And I did not give myself room to write this. So let me put this all the way over to the side and I'll pretend that I can write small. You have the percent over 100. That part hasn't changed. It's been the same for like, I think 4 topics now. Here's what's going to happen. Yesterday always goes on the bottom, but the number that goes up here is a computation problem. What we're going to do is we're going to find the difference, aka the subtraction of the two numbers that they give us. So when we're looking over here, we have 180 and we have 99. We're going to subtract those briefly in order to get 81. That number is what goes up here. And then the rest of it fills out as normal. 81 over yesterday, which is 180, equals x over 100. Cross multiply, so 180x equals 8100. Divide by 180, divide by 180. I'm going to put in a guess before I pull up the calculator. I'm going to say 45. We'll see if I'm right. Calculator. So we have 8100 divided by 180. Yes! Okay, so my human calculator isn't completely fried today. Huzzah. Now, yesterday, again, we know where that goes. That's going to go in the 90. Goes in the bottom because yesterday always goes in the bottom, equals percent over 100. Percent over 100, and percent is what we're finding. Next, we got to do the subtraction of this. So we have 152, we have 95, and we are subtracting. So that is going to be 57. So 57 is what goes in here. Cross multiply, 95x equals 5700. Divide by 95. Divide by 95, and I'm not going to do that in my head. 5700 divided by 95, enter. So for this, x is going to equal a 60% increase. I forgot to write the percent. Silly Ms. Dubois. All right, so that's how that topic is done. Again, it's stuff that you've been doing for like multiple topics now. It's just as they're giving you one new step, which in this case is finding the number that goes over here. Up here, the one new step was finding the number that went in here. Up here, the one new step was finding the number that went in here. So the setup has not changed for I don't know how many topics. They're just giving you a different first step depending on the topic. Now, last one, and then goal 3 is done, and you're ready to DSA. Identifying proportional relationships in tables by calculating unit rates. This is actually a variation of a topic from a much earlier video, and we're actually doing the same thing. So see if this sounds familiar. We'll go from 8 to 48, that's times 6. 10 to 60, that's times 6. 12 to 72, that's times 6. Is it the same number? Yes. And what is it actually? 6 times the number. That's all they're expecting you to do for this. For this one, 6 goes into 12, that's times 2. 7 goes into 28 times 4, and I can stop right there. They're not the same number, ergo this is not proportional. Next, new problem. 8 goes into 48, that's times 6. 10 times 60 is times 6. 12 times 72 is times 6. Did I literally just get the same number? Weird. Okay, so yes, it's proportional and it's 6 times the number. 6 times 12 is going to be times 2. 7 and 8 is times 4. That's the 6. I copy and pasted the same problem. Literally, what is wrong with me? Holy God. See, Ms. Dubois, this is why you shouldn't spend 14-hour days. Okay, so the number is different, therefore it's not proportional. I guess we just like literally double checked that. Embarrassment. Okay. Quickly leaving that mistake that I just made. So that is everything that is wraps up all of goal 3. Goal 3 is now completely done. You are now ready for your DSAs and the objective knowledge checks. I hope all of these video tutorials will help you. The next chapter I'm going to do is goal 4. Hopefully I'll have that up in the next couple of days. In the meantime, thank you for all of your hard work. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you in the next one. End transmission.